Me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Top quality rabbi right here.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Try hard. Okay. So, I want to show you that, of course, according to Judaism, everything's in the Torah and everything's interconnected because God is one and it's infinite. So everything's interconnected with each other. And I want to show you that the colors is something that's really very much an idea that's taught in Kabbalah, in Judaism. It's going to be really, really interesting. Okay, I'll stay in this area. If I go out of the picture, you tell me, okay? Okay, so I have to put this on YouTube for HNIT. So basically, this is a proof. You know, in Judaism, there's a word for a coincidence. You know what it's called? Anyone know? Oh, close. Mikre, right? And mikre, listen to this. Mikre stands for, the first letter and the last letter is me, hey, me Hashem. And kuf resh means rak me Hashem. Okay, only from God. So that, according to Judaism, there's no such thing as a coincidence. And all the more so when we see patterns in this world, when we see that the way that the world works, even that is not a coincidence. And we're going to see some amazing things, okay? So stay with me. I want to take you through 4 different ideas. Number 1 is how color works. That's just scientifically. Then how the Sephirot talks about it and just what the Sephirot are. There's 10 Sephirot, 10 energies, and how it fits into your body. Then the influence of colors on humans, and I'm going to be using a Kabbalistic book to teach you these ideas. It's coming from a teacher called Rav Moshe Cordovero, who was a Kabbalistic teacher. He lived about 500 years ago. And he wrote a book called Pardes Rimonim, which means the field of pomegranates. And he wrote a Kabbalistic book. And in his book, on his 10th chapter, he has a whole section called Shar HaGvanim, which means the gate of colors. Okay, Gvanim actually is not colors. It means there's another word for a Gvan in Hebrew. It's more of like shades. It's the gate of shades. But it means the gate of colors. And already there, you can see hints to the idea that how we understand what color is today. And we've always known how color really is. It's amazing. So we're going to look into these ideas, the influence of colors on humans, and then the colors of nature, and does that affect me? For instance, if I eat something that's orange, will it have an effect on me which is Kabbalistically orange? If I eat something that's red, will it have an effect on me which is Kabbalistically red? And so on and so forth. Okay, so that's what we're going to do, those 4 different things. So this is how light works, okay? Not me, scientifically. The human eye, this is from the encyclopedia, and brain together translate light into color. So if this room was dark, completely dark, would you see anything? No. Okay, so we already understand that you need light in order to see. In fact, we only see because of light waves, okay? So, light receptors within the eye transmit messages to the brain, which produces the familiar sensations of color. Newton observed that color is not inherent in objects. Rather, the surface of an object reflects some colors and absorbs all the others. So for instance, white will be a color that completely reflects the light that comes into it, right? White will completely reflect white. It doesn't absorb anything. The exact opposite to that will be black, and that completely absorbs all the light that comes to it, and that's how I see something which is black. And when it comes to other colors, some things are being absorbed, different shades of light is being absorbed, and others is not being absorbed, they're being reflected, and that's what we see. So in objects itself, there is no color. It's just light being reflected in different ways into our eyes that gives us color that we have. Okay? That was just the science of color, and we're going to look at it from here. Okay? So this is the circle of color, and we all know that there's the 3 main colors, blue, red, and yellow. Now, these are called the primary colors. Then you have the secondary colors. So when you mix blue and yellow together, you get green. And when you mix red and blue together, that looks purple, but never mind. Right? When you mix red and blue, is it just me or am I colorblind?
No, it looks purple.
It does look purple. So if you mix blue and red together, you do get purple. And when you mix yellow and red together, you get orange, okay? So these are already 3rd I forgot how you say tertiary colors, okay? Is that how you say it?
Tertiary.
Tertiary colors, okay. So those are the second, but the primary colors are the first three, okay? You with me?
Yes.
Those are the primary colors. So how are those translated and what do they represent? So we all know that red is something which is, and on the pyramid in Judaism, we're going to speak about this, it's more on the left side, it's the left energy. Blue is on the right side of you, and yellow is in the center, okay? And the left side, which is red, actually represents heat. When you see the color red, okay, what happens to you if you're in a room which is completely red? You actually feel like you're getting hot, right? So it's not necessarily hot physically, but it heats you up. It gets you angry, right? So red has some sort of heat, and it has a representation of restriction. Blue represents kindness, and it's a color which is cool, soothing and calm. It's a cool color. And yellow is the center, it's a balance, and that's what it represents. It's in the middle, and it's considered as the center of those two, and it's what we call joy. And I'm going to speak about those things. So here are the Sephirot on the body. Now, here you could see that there's actually 10 Sephirot. There's 11 here. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, wait a second. What did I do? No, there's 11 here. I don't know, I can't count. Right? But all the Sephirot are interconnected to each other. Can you see? Can you see how Malchut is connected to Hod and Yesod? I'm going to explain what they are. Netzach, Tiferet, they're all interconnected to each other. We understand that the Sephirot, and this is brought down in Sefer Yetzirah, one of the oldest Jewish books that we have, is broken down. These are 10 energies that are broken down into everything. Okay? These are the 10 energies of God that broke down into this world, into everything. It's not God himself, but they're the 10 manifestations of God in everything. In a war, in a feeling, in a cell, in a DNA. Okay? We understand that they're all interconnected. Everything is made of these 10 Sephirot. And not only is everything made into those 10 Sephirot, if you look into that smallest thing, that too has 10 Sephirot. So if I went into Malchut, right, that will have 10 Sephirot as well in it. If I went into Yesod, that will have 10 Sephirot. And in that 10 Sephirot, there'll be another one leading to another one to another one. It's a chain that goes on forever. Okay? So this is how we understand. And it's very interesting. Why is it interesting? Because we understand that these Sephirot are mainly dominated in these areas of your body. And I'll explain to you what it is in a minute. But what we also understand is that any part of your body, because these are all interconnected, any part of your body can show you all the rest of your body. You can heal somebody through the ear. You can heal somebody through the foot. You can heal somebody through the toe. Why? Because they're all interconnected with these Sephirot. And if you're able to plug in to a person's ear, you'll be able to plug into every single part of their body and know exactly what's wrong if they have something wrong. And there is ways, there's different things that are being done. So let me give you an example, okay? Here you have the ear, and if you notice, the ear actually looks like a fetus upside down, right? Can you see that? And this is real, I forgot what it's called, but there's actually a name for this where they heal through the ear. There's healing through the hand, the palm, obviously. This is obvious, but can you see the heart, the lung? You've got every single part of the body, the spine. That's acupuncture, but there's also different types, okay? So here you've got through the eye, right? And it's called iridology. Sounds funny, but that's what it is. And can you see every single part of the body is connected to the eye, which is amazing. Okay, so let's go through some of the Sephirot. So we've got here at the top something called Keter. Does anyone know what Keter means in Hebrew?
Crown.
Yeah.
Crown. Okay, so this is actually above you. It's not on you. When you wear tefillin, right, that thing that sticks out from the box, that's called the Keter. That's considered as the crown. But this is not able, that's not something which is able to be seen, and that's what connects you to godliness, okay? Stay with me. Okay, this is not something which you can actually see and relate to. It's beyond us. But we could relate to Chokhmah, Binah, and Da'at. These are the three parts of your brain that you've got on your right-hand side. If you notice, these are, oh, by the way, when I mentioned before yeah, that there's three colors, right? The body is also split into three parts according to the Sephirot. You've got the right-hand side of your body, which is your arm and your legs. Your left-hand side, right, is also your arm and your leg. And then the middle of your body is also the middle of the Sephirot, and they all have the similar energies, okay? So your body's actually split into three parts. Let me go back to the Sephirot here. So here you have Keter, Chokhmah, and Binah, right? So Keter, we said, is beyond us, but let's talk about the head, right? Chokhmah is on the right-hand side of your brain. Okay, say Chokhmah, right? So Chokhmah is wisdom, but it's not really wisdom. It's really an initial thought that comes into your head, like, oh, I want to eat now, right? So that's called Chokhmah. Then you have something called Bina, which is on your left-hand side of your brain, which says, okay, what do I want to eat? It's an analytical part of your brain, and it starts analyzing. It's also called understanding. Bina is like binyan, which means building. So also that part of the brain is the building part of the brain. Bina means to take two things and put them together. Think how we could put things together. That's called Bina. And that is the final solution, right? That's the actual knowledge where I feel that I understand this idea and I'm connected to it. Okay, so those are the three parts of your brain. I'm not going to go too into it because I want to take you to the colors. This is just an introduction. And here are the 7 other Sephirot. Okay, these are called the Gimel Rishonot, the 3 upper, the 3 beginning Sephirot, and these are called the Sheva Tachtonot, the Zayin Tachtonot or Zayin Taf, which stands for the 7 lower Sephirot. Okay, so we have on the right hand side of you, on your arm is Chesed, and on the left hand side is Gevura, which means restriction. So on your right hand side, that is where you want to do Chesed, and Gevura is strict restriction on your left. Now, the reason why the Chesed needs to be on the right, because right is more dominating in the world, right? Meaning our right energy needs to be more dominating, and we want to have more Chesed than Gevura. For instance, when you're educating your child, right? You want to have more kindness than restriction. You don't want to just restrict your child all the time. That's bad for the child. You don't want to be kind to your child all the time. That's bad for your child. What do you want to have? La'olam, yehei. It says in the Talmud, always your right hand should be bringing the child close, and the left hand should put things to stop. Okay? Meaning much more love, but also at the same time have restriction. But more love than restriction. If you say no, 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 no to your child, what's going to happen? They'll rebel, they'll go against you, right? If you say yes, yes, yes all the time to your child, what's going to happen? You spoil and you're going to ruin the child. What does spoiling do to the child? You don't have to think much before you think, it's just like how many people today have got so much and they're unhappy, right? So when you give someone everything to everyone, then they don't feel like they've earned it, then it's unhealthy, it's very unhealthy, okay? So you want to have what we say is chesed on my right hand and gevura, restriction, on my left hand. All energy, by the way, where there's chesed, where there's peace, where there's goodness, right? That's coming from the chesed side. When there's a war, the idea of war, the anger, right? That's coming from gevura, that's coming from the left side. Tiferet is the balance of these two, which is called beauty, okay? And it's beautiful because it's a balance. It's the balance of restriction and chesed, but also not just a balance, but you're getting more chesed than gevura. You're getting more kindness than restriction, and that's what makes beauty, when you have that perfect amount of kindness but restriction at the same time. Okay, then we have our legs. I'm not going to go too far into this, but this is the basic idea. Then we have the legs, which is netzach and hod. Netzach is perseverance, which means that now that I'm in harmony, and I'm feeling great with my chesed and my gevura, I have kindness and I have restriction and I feel the harmony. I want to have what we call, and I have tiferet, I want to have netzach. I want to keep going. I don't want to just relax now. When someone's feeling good and he's got enough, he's successful, he's doing well, then he starts relaxing. You don't want to relax, right? You want to have netzach as well, which means perseverance. Hod is humility and victory. I'm not going to go too long into this. Yesod, right? Yesod is actually the foundation, and that's Yesod is actually right in Judaism. It's actually the male organ, and Malchut is the ability to pass that through and recreate yourself. So that Malchut actually is the last one, and that's kingship, because it's all of you walking together and passing it on to the next one. That's why I told you beforehand that the 10 Sephirot lead to another 10 Sephirot, which leads to another, right? Because Malchut is the end, and that's literally passing itself off to another 10 Sephirot, which passes itself off to another 10. Okay, these are abstract ideas. I don't want to get you too crazy about them, because they are a study in itself. I want to take you to the colors, okay? And how the colors fit in. Okay, this is also a different idea. It's important to know, but just because of creation and understanding. So we have the worlds. By the way, this world that we're in what we call, okay, these are abstract Kabbalistic ideas, but stay with me. We are in the world called Asiya, which is the lowest of these four worlds. You've got Atzilut, Bria, Yetzirah, Asiya. That's the lowest world, and it means the doing, the reality, the physical reality that we're in. We're in the lowest of this world. There are many worlds that came before this world, and these are the names, Yetzirah, Bria, Atzilut, and there's something even called Ak. These two here above the red line are beyond us. We cannot understand them. And they're also hidden in the name of Hashem. You've got Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey, and the head of the Yud, that little spitz on top of the Yud, that's the Ak, that's the Keter, the crown. Then you've got Chokhmah. You see that it fits into the worlds as well. Okay, Bina, and then the 6 other Sephirot, and then Malchut. Okay, is anyone like following with me at all? Not really. Is this completely weird? With me?
Yeah,
okay. Any question? You're slightly lost? Okay, so you're lost because these are abstract ideas. To me, I've already heard this many times, and it's absorbed into me, but I still don't understand it, right? What we understand, all I can tell you is that an infinite being, right, in order to create this world, had to break down energies, okay? In order to have a physical world, okay? And these energies had to be broken down into different parts because we're in a finite world. Okay, you can't have just one energy. So those energies were broken down into 10 different Sephirot. And these 10 Sephirot were broken down in these number of worlds, right? And it's hidden in God's name. Okay, I don't want to get too into it because this is not the numbers yet. I just wanted to get to show you that the Sephirot also work with the world. They say that the world started from Bria. Okay, so the world that we're in started from this world, which is Bina. Okay, so that's what we said over here. That's the left-hand side of your brain. We have the right side of the brain left, and then the back of my brain. Okay, so the left of my brain is called Bina, and the world was created with Bina. Okay, I just also very important to understand that this picture here, right? When we're talking about humans, Keter doesn't exist. Okay, that's a godly thing. That's beyond us. So when we're talking about humans, we have Bina, Chokhmah, Dat, Gevurah, Chesed, Tiveret, Hod, Netzach, and that's 10. When we're not talking about humans, we're not comparing the Sephirot into humans, we'll say Keter and we'll remove Dat, okay? Just important to know, we always have 10. Here there's 11, because when you have Keter, you don't have Dat. When you have Dat, you don't have Keter. Okay, I'm just giving you ideas so far. I want to take you from these ideas to the idea of colors. So I actually took the text of the Pardes Rimonim of Rav Moshe Cordovero in his 10th chapter. Okay, so he says that all the colors are connected to the Sephirot. Each Sephirah, each of the 10 Sephirot is connected to a different color. That's what he says. But he says, don't think that the reality is the physical color that you see. That's not a reality. That's what he says. Today we can understand that, by the way, because we know that color is just light, right? But he says, don't think that's the reality, because that's something which is physical. And that's something which we are seeing in the physical world, and it can't be explained or it can't be used to define something which is spiritual. So the physical is a manifestation of something which is spiritual. Okay, that's what he says. And he says like this. He says, for instance, white, right, is a color that he says that it's very dangerous to think that this is the reality, that the colors are a reality. You're destroying the world if that's how you think. So that's why Kabbalah can be very dangerous. Then he says like this, it's very important to understand that the colors that we see are examples of the real reality. So he gives me an example. For instance, somebody who wins in war, right? So that language, that color, or the idea of winning a war is the color of red. Why? Because that's a color of blood, okay? And that represents something, okay? So that's why blood or red also can show a sense of cruelty. There's white, shows mercy and peace. That's why people wave the flag, right? What colored flag do they use when they want to show mercy and peace, right? He says white. Why? Because that's the way of mercy. Like when you see somebody who's older, he comes white. And what happens to somebody who's older? He doesn't fight, right? So that's just the reality in this world, and that's why it's translated as white being something which is to do with mercy. And we're going to see that as well. Okay. And there's no question about it that these energies, the colors that we see, they're rooted from something beyond this world, and they are manifested here. But don't think that that is the reality. That's what he says. And then he goes on, he shows me. That's why, by the way, in Yom Kippur, why do we wear white on Yom Kippur? Because we want to bring out energy which is white. We want to bring out merciful energy into the world by wearing that color. Okay, so he talks about how when you wear certain colors, they actually they impact you. They impact you, they make you think differently. Okay. He says, he goes on and he talks about Im chesed gamur loven gamur v'im lo kol kach yitzayel loven mesid. He says you should always imagine it. If you can't actually see it, you can even imagine it, and that can have an impact on you. Okay, so that's what he says. I don't want to go too far into it. I just want to show you the colors on the body, and then we'll move on. Okay? Again, Keter is not white. It's meant to be. That's what he says in Pardes Rimonim. This color, which is beyond us, is like a white that gives a light. It's beyond white. It's a very bright white. Okay? And he says that's the Keter, which is the crown, which is beyond us. That's the Sephirot, which is beyond us. Then he says the very first Sephirah, which is in us, which is the most spiritual part of all of us, is Chokhmah, which is when you get an idea in your head. Okay? That is the most spiritual area of you, and that is in the color purple. Then you have Bina, which is in the color green. And he says something very interesting. Did you remember beforehand, I told you that that's when the world started to be created, once it hit this energy. Okay? Once this energy was in Bina, that's when the world was created. He says like this. If you notice, that's why all fruits and all vegetation, everything, starts off green at the beginning. Only after it's ripe does it change color to the color that you need to eat it in. Very interesting. Why is it green from the beginning? Because Bina is green. Bina means building, and that's where the world started to be created. Before Bina, the world, this was above the world. So Chokhmah and Keter for God is beyond this world. The world was started to be creating with Bina. And it makes sense. We said beforehand, when I have an idea in my head, that's Chokhmah. When I start analyzing the idea and say, okay, how do I put things together? That's Bina. And that's when the world started to be created. Okay? So he says that's why, if you notice, anything to do with beginnings is green. Anything to do with renewal is green. And we'll talk about that soon. And here goes the three main of the seven, the three main colors. You see here? You've got blue, red, and yellow. You see that? Blue, red, and yellow, we said, are the primary colors. And these are the primary colors because those are the primary colors how we act in this world. The first, all what I said here is in our head. That's beyond the physical world, so to speak. What's here is manifested in our body, okay? So you've got Chesed, Gevura, and Tiferet. And Chesed represents kindness, just like the blue. We said is something which calms you down, and it's a cool color. Well, it represents kindness, and that's on the right-hand side of you. Gevura, it represents restriction, and the harmony between the two is Tiferet. Very interesting. What is harmony? Do you know what harmony is? Joy. Right? When you have harmony, you get joy. Why do you get joy when you have harmony? You get happy when you have harmony. Think about it. If you go to a beautiful Philharmonic orchestra and you see some beautiful music, and you're watching someone playing a violin and the other person playing some kind of piano, and everyone's just putting all these sounds together and it's coming together in harmony, that's the moment where you're like, wow, what a joy, right? And the people that are playing it, they get even more harmony than everyone else because they're the ones that's in it and they're feeling like they're playing with somebody else and the music's going together, and it's a moment of absolute joy. That's a moment of Tiferet, okay? So Tiferet, and there's no question about it, it's very interesting that it's yellow. Yellow is the color of joy. Isn't that interesting? When you're happy, right? What do we color the picture of our smiley face? We color it yellow because that's what joy is. Joy is harmony. When you find somebody and you, right, eventually, and hopefully very soon, and you find somebody that you love and you see the harmony and you see the companionship coming together, then you'll find a moment of Tiferet. You want that Tiferet to last. That's why you need to continue, right? Because Tiferet is very short-lived. Then you need Netzach and Hod and the other things. But that's the harmony of two people coming together. That's why you get joy. Joy is shown in Tiferet, okay? Then we have Netzach, Hod, and Yesod, and those are in different colors. This is a lighter red because it's a mix of blue with yellow. This is a bit of a darker red because it's also mixed with yellow and some kind of blue. If you could see that they're all interconnected, but it's got a darker red as well to it, so therefore it comes lighter red. That's the understanding that I got. Then you've got orange, and then you've got Malchut, which is a very dark color. Okay, that's a very dark color, and the lower down you go, the darker it gets. So if you notice, beyond us, at the bottom of us, is absolutely black. Okay, that's absolute darkness, and that's not part of the Sephirot. We have white right above us, and black is the absolute opposite beyond us, below us. Okay, so I want to share with you some interesting ideas. Look at the rainbow. Okay, so does anyone know why Judaism, according to Judaism, why we have a rainbow? Right, you know the story, right? Because of the flood, and God made a promise that I'll never bring a flood again to the world. And why? How do I know? I'll use the rainbow as my proof. Rainbow comes from light and water, and I'll use that as my proof. Even though the scientific existence of a rainbow came from the beginning, but you can explain that already from the beginning of creation, God knew that this will be an example, okay? But what's very interesting is how the rainbow works. We never thought about this, but look at this, okay? We said Gevurah is much more of a physical existence. It's much more of a restrictive energy. Chesed is more spiritual. Tiferet's more spiritual. Chochmah is much higher, and Bina is much higher, right? So if you look at the picture here, right, red is the very first color. Then you have orange, then you have yellow, then you have green, then you have purple, right? Going into purple, which is the most spiritual color that we have in our body, right? So, which is very interesting. Why? What does the bow look like? Why is it called a bow? Right, the rainbow. Why is it called a bow? What does the bow look like?
Half a circle.
Right, but what's a bow? Right, a bow and arrow. So, when you have an arrow, right, and you have a bow, right, which way is it facing? Which way is that facing? Is that facing humans or God?
God.
It's God, right? If I had an arrow sticking up here, and this is my bow, which way would it be going? To God. So God is basically saying, look, I will take all the din, right, that I'm meant to be giving to you, and I'm going to turn it to me. All the judgment and the judgment for the bad that we did, which should deserve to have a destruction of the world, I'm going to turn it the other way around and transform it into chesed. Isn't that amazing? So that's what he's doing. He's transforming the rainbow against himself, so to speak, and he's saying, okay, I will take on this, so to speak, this punishment, and I will bring it on myself. And I'm going to turn the rainbow the other direction. Isn't that amazing? So that's why this represents the chesed, that represents the restriction, the anger, the din, and he's turning it against himself instead of turning it against the Jewish people. Okay? So here's black, now, if you notice, this color here is meant to be black, and that's underneath the human body, but it's not on the 10 Sephirot. Black is not actually on the 10 Sephirot, and it is a color which absorbs. We said that it absorbs, and that's exactly what it does. It swallows, like the black hole that we recently discovered, right? According to us, it swallows everything. So what's black doing, so to speak, below us? What does that represent? And it's told that that's the sitra achra, the evil forces that we create by doing the wrong things. So when somebody does, we understand that when somebody does a bad thing, when you steal, when you say lashon hara, when you say gossip, you actually create an angel. Okay, that's what Judaism says. And we also say that when you do a mitzvah, you create an angel. Angels don't mean literally beings flying around with wings. It means energies that you've now created in this world. Okay, certain energies that you create in this world. And the energy of absorbing, right? According to everybody, what would be the ultimate evil? What's evil? What's evil?
Lack of God.
Well, right, what's the lack of God? What does that mean?
Black hole.
Well, when you're absorbing everything and you're not giving back anything else to others. That's the essence of what evil means, is that when you absorb something and you're not returning it to others, you're just taking it for yourself, okay? So it appears, we're going to see that it's not like that always, because there's many things that we do in Judaism which actually uses the color black. But black in itself appears to be something which absorbs everything that comes towards it and doesn't reflect anything back, okay? And that's exactly what the sitra achra does. The evil forces that we create, that's what they do. What they do is that they take from us the good energies that we create. So for instance, it's told that when you, let's say, you know, like when you're living in your house right now, like you're living in a house, and all of a sudden you find out that the water's not working so well, right? So you turn on the tap, and the water's just not coming out. And you're wondering, why is the water not coming out? So you find out that it's not coming out because somebody from the neighbor is stealing your pipe. They're taking your pipe, they're connecting to your pipe, and they're absorbing, they're taking out all the water from your house. And you're like, now I know, right? So that's exactly how the sitra achra works. That's how the evil forces work, is that once it's sucking out the good things that you do in this world, when you do good in this world, the evil energy that you created is living off that good. And therefore you limit your powers, your energies, your spiritual energies are limited because the evil forces that you created are absorbing it all. Okay? So that's also hidden in the letter Hey and Kuf. Hey, Kuf can also represent going back, going down to the ground and absorbing something right down to the bottom. Okay? But let's say there is a problem here because black is also used for spiritual things, right? We have black tefillin. What's black tefillin? How come the tefillin are black? If we said, according to the Sephirot, that black means to absorb colors. When is absorbing good? Huh? Yeah, if you're absorbing knowledge, right? Absorbing can also be good. And that's why, by the way, right, we have judges, people of, right, that guy is famous, right? That's the first I searched judge. So the idea of wearing black is actually something which is worn by people of authority, by people that are thinking, by lawyers, by judges, by leaders. They actually dress in something which is black, and that's because it gives that feeling of he's contemplating, he's thinking, he's absorbing the situation. Especially a judge, they would specifically wear something black. And this is, by the way, not that people were consciously thinking, okay, I'm going to wear black in order to absorb the information, but we always had it written that that's what black does, and that energy is that energy. That's what the energy is, it's absorbing. So going back to tefillin, that's what we do. We have, it's a tradition that we always had. It doesn't say in the Torah, by the way, that you should wear black tefillin, but everyone wears black tefillin because we always had it, that that's how the color should be. And he goes on, you know, we have the tefillin cherosh, the department on the head, and you have the department on the arm, right? The head is directly in the area which is to do with where you think. And it has to be exactly, if it's below your hairline, then it doesn't work. It doesn't count. It's like plugging into the electricity in the right place. You know, if you plug it into the wrong place, you won't have electricity. So you've got to put the tefillin in the right place. If it's slightly off, it won't work. The same with the arm. That represents on the arm where the muscles are, which represents strength, and it's against the heart, which represents the emotions. Okay, so we put this black tefillin, and it's got on it the 4 different compartments by the head, the 1 compartment by the arm, and what it represents is the idea of absorbing spiritual energies. The yud on top, right, the head piece on top, that's called keter. It's like an antenna, right? You've got an antenna on your head, and that's called a keter, the crown. It's like the head of the yud, and it goes up like this, and it absorbs the spiritual energy that you can have. By the way, they've tried this. There's actually something called Hila. Okay, we actually know, and we've always known that there's actually a certain light that's given off by every person that exists. Did you know this? There's something called a Hila light or aura light that's given off by every person. And we can actually see those on a special cameras. If you use the right camera, you can actually see the aura light that comes out of you. We know that if you put on, that people that put on tefillin, after they put it on, their aura actually changes. The color changes to a more spiritual color. This is actually a real study that's been done. Okay, so the healer, after you put on tefillin, your healer, your color, from the color that gives off, which are also to do with the Sephirot, are actually changed. So we see the same thing with black in general, that's what it is. And that's why we see also the Torah is written in black, and the Arizal says that when you look at Torah, you should actually look at the letters carefully, because you're going to be absorbing some spiritual energy. That's what he says. And make sure that you go close up. That's why everyone runs close to see the letters. When you go close to the letters, try and read a word, because you're absorbing the energies of the words and they affect you. Everyone knows that you do certain things and you're affected by the things you do. If you go into a certain place, you'll be affected. If you go into the kotel, you're affected. There's certain energies given off. And there's a special energy just by going close to the words and absorbing those letters. That's what the Arizal says. But again, it's in black. And again, you see the idea of contemplation. That's the color that is worn for the idea of contemplation. Okay, he goes here again. This is another thing. But let's just look into some of the colors. Okay, he actually talks about somebody who thinks. Here he says, if you think of a color, if you don't have it with you, you can actually contemplate on a color and it can affect you. How interesting is that? Mitztayer. He said it's like when you taste something, right? Have you ever thought of a taste and suddenly you get the taste in your mouth? Has that ever happened to you? You think of lemon and you start tasting lemon. Has that happened to you? So he says, well, if you think of a certain color, they can affect you as well. That's how far the effect of colors go on us. Okay? So red, let's just talk about the colors and the effects that they have. Red represents heat. It can actually have an effect in increasing a blood pressure. If somebody has low blood pressure, they should surround themselves in that color, right? With things with that color. It can add stress to a person by just being, imagine, if you ever noticed, you never go into a hospital and the rooms of the hospital is all in red. It doesn't happen, right? What colors do you normally see in the hospital? White. What else?
Gray.
Blue. Right? What else? I think green. Right? So these are natural colors that are soothing and calming. If you put red all over a hospital room, it kind of won't go, especially if there's an operation going on. Right? So that doesn't work. So blue represents, like we said, the energy of chesed, kindness. Okay? And that energy is cooling, soothing, calming. It can actually remove anxiety. What do you want to do? If you're feeling painful and anxious, where do you go?
Blue.
Ocean.
Where's blue? The ocean, right? So you go outside. If you're in the office, we're not made to be indoors all day. It's not good for us. We are meant to be outdoors. If you're indoors from morning to night and all you are is indoors, that's not good. You're meant to be outside, right? The Jewish people are founded of shepherds. Moshe was a shepherd. David was a shepherd. They lived outside, right? So I'm not saying that we should all be shepherds now, but there's an idea of greatness, of being connected to the reality of the world, the light of the world, the colors of the world. These are real things. And it's known that that can actually help with problems of anxiety, and it can actually lower the blood pressure. The color of blue and it makes sense. Once you're calm and you're in an environment that's calm, you'll start lowering your blood pressure, okay? So, by the way, it's interesting to know, we mentioned before that black is a color that absorbs, right? Where's the lowest point, according to Judaism, in the world?
Dead Sea.
The Dead Sea. Why is it dead?
Because it only takes in water?
It only takes in water. It's at the bottom, and it doesn't give off water. It's too low. No one's going to pass water from there, take water from there, right? So it's right down there, and all the water's absorbed, and it's called the Dead Sea. So the idea of absorbing everything and never giving back, if it's done for the wrong reasons, if you're absorbing things for the wrong reason, that's a bad energy, okay? And that's why it's put at the bottom, whilst white, the ultra white, is put right at the top, which represents Keter, okay? I didn't even go into gold, silver, which also represent Chesed and Gevurah. I don't want to confuse you. It looks like you're confused as is. So we'll just go further like this. Okay, so yellow represents light, happiness, smiling, joy, right? Joy is harmony. When you feel that you're in a place of harmony, you feel that sense of joy. The sun it's interesting that whenever people draw the picture of the sun, they put a smiley face on it. I mean, the people that's around me, like my kids, right? So, but yellow is the harmony, like we said, of Gevurah and Chesed. It's the harmony of restriction and kindness, much more kindness than restriction. And that's how, by the way, the world works. We don't go through in our life difficult things all the time. Most of our life is not that difficult, right? We don't go through difficulty all the time. But every once in a while, we would face Gevurah. We can never survive if we just faced Gevurah, which means restriction. And we could never survive if we just faced Chesed. We always have those moments which cause us to stumble, and then it makes us wake up. Oh my goodness, I should be thankful for my legs, Or something goes wrong and it wakes you up, right? Somebody that I heard about that couldn't go skiing because he broke his leg. So that breaking of the leg could actually be a memory of the fact that you can walk and you can be healthy. So that was a Gevurah that doesn't happen every day, but it's there as a way of reminding us of Chesed. Okay, now yellow is a harmony of red and blue, and then we have green. And we said that green is something which was connected to Bina, the analytical part, the building part of the world, and that's why whenever a fruit is at its beginning process, that is green. And it's called Ramak, right? He says it's green like the grass of the outside, not the grass that you'd think of, and green like leeks, he says. That's what he says when he says the word green. And what does it do? What does that color have the ability to do? It has the ability to renew us, to take us back to a place of refreshment, to heal us, to take us back to our beginning, right? And that was the idea I said about unripe fruits. Orange. Orange has the ability to clean negative emotions, to strengthen our love of creations, and bring us to a place of positivity. How come? Why orange? Do you remember what energy we said orange was? We said orange was Yesod, which was like Joseph. Joseph was Yesod. He was the man that was all about being connected to his master and being honest. He was connected to his father and to his master, and he wouldn't be in a relationship with this wife of Potiphar, right? He wouldn't be in the relationship of this lady who was one of the most beautiful people of Egypt, and she constantly seduced him, and he almost fell, but he managed to run away. Okay, and that's on him we say he's a tzaddik. He's called a tzaddik, Yesod Olam. Somebody who's a tzaddik is a Yesod. They are the founding block of society. Without Yesod, without being honest and loyal to the people around you, you will not have a healthy society. So orange, by definition, represents overcoming temptations, okay? It's making the right connections with people. That is the color. That's what Yesod is. Yesod is the idea of connecting my energies with somebody else. That's literally the idea of Yesod. So Orange literally is has an ability to clean the negative emotions, strengthen our relationships with others, bring an energy of positivity into us. Okay, so these are some of the colors. We said purple. Purple is in the idea part of my brain. It's the most spiritual part of my brain, and it strengthens our thinking ability. By the way, have you ever wondered, when you ask people, what's your favorite color? How many people say purple? No one. Why? It's a spiritual color. It is a spiritual color. Why not? You see some beautiful purple, right? There's hummingbirds that come and they have these colors that are mind-blowing, right? We have that flower outside. So what's wrong with purple? Why doesn't anyone say that purple's their favorite color? Do you know why?
Nowhere.
We call it lavender.
Lavender. Okay, so why don't the people that call it lavender, have you ever said that lavender is your favorite color? Right? Why do people say
Lavender?
yeah, people say that's their favorite color. Okay, it's a nice color, but I don't see people wearing purple a lot, you know?
Forget about it.
Why do we forget about it? They say, and this is what he brings down, that purple is a color that's beyond us because it represents that ultimate spiritual place. It's the beginning of my chokhmah, it's the beginning of my head, right? There's chokhmah, binah, and dat, and the start of everything is here. And it's the most spiritual part of the human. If you notice, we've shown on the rainbow, the bottom part of the rainbow, which is closest to us, is purple. The top is red, right? So purple represents the most merciful part within us, right? It's the most spiritual part within us. And because it's so spiritual, it's beyond us that people can't connect to it. So, but if somebody does connect to it, it represents someone who is very spiritual. It strengthens your thinking ability and your connection to spirituality. Okay, let's go. White has, obviously, it's somebody with no boundaries, is able to give and give and give and has no boundaries. Is that good for you?
No.
No, right? It's not healthy for you at all. So you can't be somebody that's always about giving. And the peace flag is actually white. That's good at many times, but not always. And being calm and giving in, subjecting yourself to somebody else, is to do with that white energy. By the way, do you know this healer, that color that I was talking about that surrounds every person? There's actually a healer camera, the aura camera that sees the colors around every person. 30 days before someone passes away, it's brought down in the Arizal, the color disappears. There actually is no color given off by that person. And we understand that's because that person's now giving off a certain white called Keter. He's giving off this white that's beyond our scope of seeing. Okay, that's because he's now about to leave this world. Very, very interesting. There's a guy who actually used to go around with the healer camera, and he took people on stage. He said, "Look, put tefillin, and we'll see that the colors change." He wanted to show this idea that when your healer changes, your aura changes based on the things that you do. And somebody came on, and they had no color. And it came out that just not long after, that person passed away. So there's actually real stories. You can actually find out about this. Do research about aura. The healer, in Hebrew it's called hila, hey, yud, lamed, hey. But in English it's the aura, I think. The colors that are given off by you. There's actually aura healing. They actually can heal people through the colors that are given off. A very spiritual person will give off this purple type color. The most spiritual person will give off a very purple type color. Okay, so let's look at some of different parts of the body and how they work, and they also connect to Chesed and Gevura, these energies that we were talking about. Okay, so we have the white blood cells and the red blood cells. What do? All three cell types form in the bone marrow, so they're created in the bone, which is the soft tissue inside your bones. Red blood cells transport oxygen to your body and organs and tissues, so that you need that gevura, that strength, to travel and pass oxygen all over your body, right? It pumps. The red is literally gevura passing through your entire body, all the oxygen that you take in. White, however, helps fight your body and its infections, right? It helps fight all the infections that you have in the body. So white literally is the opposite of Gevura. White is also Chesed. It's the ability to be saving you and help you. Okay, so you see these colors are actually effective in the way that the world itself works. You've got red and white. White is also one of the colors of chesed. And you see this in many other areas. All the fruits that we eat, right? Red fruits are known to be good for the heart. They're good for our blood. Red wine, they say, is really good for your heart. So anything to do with red is good for affecting your blood and strengthening, renewing, and refreshing your blood, which is very interesting because that's red to do with the Sephirot of Gevurah, which is in your blood as well. Okay? Then we have white, and there's this idea that white reduces cholesterol, it helps fight all diseases in your blood, lowers blood pressure, because white represents the chesed as well as blue. We said that white is together with blue, and it helps reduce the pain of blood as well. It helps fight. Garlic, right, is white. And what does garlic do? What's garlic known for?
Stinky.
Well, it's definitely stinky. But what is it? It's the greatest antibody, right? It's the natural antibiotics, right? It's the natural antibiotics. So white is something which is able to fight, right? The banana. Okay. So here's yellow. What does yellow do?
Vitamins. Makes you happy.
Yellow, no, actually is this orange? This is orange. So your orange, I wrote down, we said it cleans negative emotions, but what does it do for us? We said that what does orange do? It connects me to other people, right? That's all about connecting. Well, orange is always good for your skin. All orange vegetables and fruits are good for your skin, and they're good at connecting you to others. It's actually an ability to help keep you looking young. It cleans acne. It's all about cleaning your skin so you look presentable to the people around you. Very interesting. How orange, which is the yesod, which is about connecting in the right way to other people, happens to be that color as well. Okay? Green, and you can see green. Green is fruit. Green fruits and vegetables are all about reducing inflammatory problems, cholesterol, cancer, right? It's all about, green is something which definitely by far today is the most popular vegetable that everyone says is the healthiest for you, and it's all about renewal, okay? And that's what green was. It's all about taking your inflammation that you have and reducing it back to the way that you originally were. So that's why green is something which is very good for you. And, cucumbers is good for rehydration, and so on and so forth. All these vegetables, avocado today is very, very popular. They are all good for renewal, for that idea of renewal, which is seen in the color green. Okay? We have yellow. Yellow is good for your teeth and for your eyes. Well, by the way, teeth, we said yellow does what?
Yellow's your teeth.
Happiness.
It gives you happy, right? So no, if you eat yellow fruits, no. If you eat, sorry, bad teaching on my part. But if you eat yellow fruits and vegetables, that can actually be good for your teeth. It gives off certain rich carotenoids and whatever that can actually be good for your teeth. Okay, before we finish, so here is our very last thing. You see here, this is what we can actually see. Okay, this is our visible spectrum. This is the reality of what we see. Then we have the IR, the microwaves, the radio waves, the long radio waves, that these are the size of, right, huge sizes of buildings these waves are. But we cannot see any of this. We can't see the UV, the X-rays, and we can't see the Y-rays. So we can't see most of what we actually see. We have a very small visible spectrum. The bee, they say, can see much beyond, very far beyond our visibility. So you can see just beyond the purple. It can get through the ultraviolet color. The bee has so when we see a bee, we think he sees exactly like us. They see way more colors and dimensions than we see. It's amazing, okay? So what's really interesting is that here we are, we're talking about some little amount of vision that we have of this world, and there's so much more in the world that we're living in that we don't even know about, okay? So that is really the idea that Rav Moshe Cordovero is teaching. Trust me, we've only touched a very small idea of what colors really is. It's something which is definitely connected to the Sephirot. But one thing's for sure, like it says in the Talmud, Ki lo davar reku. The Torah says it's not an empty thing. And he says in the Talmud, Ve'im reku mikemu. He says that the Torah is not something that's empty. If it's empty, it's because of you. So when somebody looks at Judaism and they think, okay, how can this Judaism have a vision, or how can there be this world of spirituality that's beyond our world? How can that be? Whatever I see is reality. That's it. You have to remind them that what we see is only a tiny fraction of what really is in this world. There are X-rays and visions and colors that are way beyond our own vision, and that's really the idea that I wanted to share with you. I hope that you got something from this, but I just found that it's so powerful, just how we have those primary colors, the blue, the red, and the yellow, and those three colors are actually the three main ways that we act in this world, either with restriction, with kindness, or with Sephirot, which is the harmony of the two, and they are translated in those colors. We feel those colors, and that's why we act with those colors. You know, when we run around with the white flag, no one told the people to go with a white flag, that should represent peace. No one told them to. But for some reason, humanity felt that white represents peace. That represents the flag color for not making a war, right? For some reason. And we always knew that that's because that energy is translated into the Sephirah of chesed, of kindness, and so on and so forth. That's what you see in all the other areas. Royalty is blue, and so on and so forth. Okay, so I think that's basically it. Maybe we could do, maybe another time, get deeper into the Sephirot, because the Sephirot really is beyond. It's a separate class in itself, and we should have spoken about the Sephirot next time. Anyway, so that's it. I think it's... Okay. Any questions, thoughts, any ideas? Did anyone understand anything I said?
Yeah.
Some? Okay.
I heard the near-death experience, like some people that claim that when they die, right, they see a white light. Is that because they're merciful?
Yeah, that's the idea of Keter. It's not light, but it's something beyond light. Like it's beyond. That's what's beyond us that can't be described. It's a color that can't be described. It's very interesting to point out that anything that's to do with recreating is also in that color. It's very interesting. So, but that's white, because that comes from Keter, which is the idea.
We also wear black at funerals.
We do wear black at funerals, right? And that represents absorbing. There's a certain sense of sadness. Death is something that is literally taking. That's what death is, and that's what it represents. Again, none of these are bad or good, right? When I say restriction, that's not a bad thing. Gevura, red, is not a bad thing in itself. None of these are bad or good. Black is not bad by itself, because it has the ability to also absorb. Red, by definition, is not bad. Why? Because Gevura is important. Without Gevura, the world wouldn't be able to work. Without Gevura, without restriction, then everything would just be all over the place. The ocean would just overcome the land, and just everything will be destroyed. You need to have, according to Judaism, you need to have a restriction in everything. And we do. In everything we have those boundaries that we make. Boundaries are important. Okay.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
There's so much more to learn.